At sister's engagement party, Uncle James asked about the $1.5 million home you own. My parents fell silent. Have you ever felt like you were completely invisible to your own family, like nothing you ever did mattered? Well, I lived that for 8 agonizing years. And then, at my sister's engagement party, one innocent question from my uncle shattered their carefully constructed reality into a million pieces. The silence that followed? It was absolutely deafening. Story. The night had started exactly as expected. The Riverside Ballroom was buzzing, champagne flowing, 200 guests celebrating my sister Brooke's engagement. She'd been waving her hand around, flashing that 2-carat platinum ring, a ring that cost her fiancé 3 months' salary for the past hour. And the proposal story? Oh, she'd recounted it at least 15 times already, each retelling more dramatic than the last. My parents, of course, absolutely beamed with pride, asking intricate questions about the jeweler and the diamonds cut, like they were suddenly expert gemologists.
Me?
I was just a ghost in the background, nursing my glass of Pinot Noir, offering polite congratulations when absolutely necessary. Just Sophia, the overlooked sister. Then, like a beacon of hope, my Uncle James arrived. He wasn't just my dad's younger brother. He was this brilliant venture capitalist who'd made his fortune backing tech startups back in the late 90s. More importantly, he was the only one who'd truly bothered to stay connected with me for the last 8 years, even though he lived 3,000 miles away in San Francisco. Sorry I'm late, everyone, James called out, navigating through the crowd towards our family cluster. He hugged Brooke, congratulated her fiancé, then turned to me, his arms wide. Sophia, God, it's good to see you. He pulled back, studying my face, a warm smile spreading. You look incredible. How's life in that gorgeous $1.5 million house you purchased? Is the neighborhood everything you hoped for? The entire room, the entire family cluster just froze. Brooke's hand, still midair, showing off her ring, stopped dead. My mother's champagne glass halted inches from her lips. My dad's face went utterly blank. James, my father whispered, his voice tight with confusion. What house? I took a slow, deliberate sip of my wine, savoring the moment. 8 years. 8 years of being brushed aside, of feeling invisible, of every single one of Brooke's achievements being a Broadway spectacle while mine were nothing. And now, the truth was about to detonate. The house on Sterling Heights, James said casually, accepting a champagne flute from a passing server. The one Sophia bought back in 2016. Gorgeous craftsman. That mountain view is spectacular. I even stayed there last time I was in town. Brooke, of course, found her voice first. It was shrill, laced with disbelief. Sophia doesn't own a house. She rents that tiny apartment near the university. I just looked at her. I rented that apartment, Brooke. I corrected, my voice steady, for about 2 years during my PhD. Then I bought the house on Sterling Heights. That was 8 years ago. My father's champagne flute tilted dangerously in his grip. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the 5-bedroom Craftsman I purchased for $1.2 million in June 2016, I stated, my tone even. The one that's now valued at approximately $1.5 million, according to recent market comparables. The number seemed to echo through the sudden, thick silence around us. My mother's hand flew to her throat. My father looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Brooke's perfectly practiced smile crumbled into dust. That's impossible, my mother breathed, her eyes wide with shock. Where would you get over $1 million? I put down $240,000 and financed the rest, I explained, though I added, I paid off the entire mortgage 6 years ago. James nodded, a knowing glint in his eye. Smart move. Sophia's always been brilliant with money. That signing bonus from Helix Pharmaceuticals? She put the entire amount toward the mortgage principal. Paid off $960,000 in just 2 years. Signing bonus? My father's voice was faint, barely audible. What signing bonus? From when I started at Helix, I said. They offered me $180,000 as a signing bonus to leave my postdoc position. I accepted and used it all to pay down the mortgage. You got a $180,000 signing bonus? Brooke's voice was a strangled gasp. That's standard for senior positions in pharmaceutical research, I explained almost clinically. My current annual compensation is $375,000, including bonuses and stock options. The silence that followed was absolute. Someone, a guest in the periphery, actually dropped their champagne flute. It shattered on the marble floor with a startling crack. Several heads turned. My mother looked like she might genuinely faint. $375,000, my father repeated mechanically, his eyes glazed over. A year? Base salary is $280,000, I clarified. Annual performance bonuses average around $60,000, and my stock options vested this year at approximately $35,000. James smiled. Sophia's being modest. Those stock options? She mentioned she's sitting on another $420,000 in unvested equity, plus the patent royalties. Patent royalties? My mother whispered, her voice barely audible. I hold 11 patents, I said, in oncology drug delivery systems. They generate roughly $95,000 annually in licensing fees. Brooke's hand, still frozen in midair, began to tremble. The 2-carat engagement ring on her fingers suddenly looked very, very small. My parents stood completely still, processing information that clearly didn't fit their understanding of me. I don't understand, my mother said, her voice breaking. You're a pharmaceutical researcher. How can you afford all this? I'm the director of oncology research at Helix Pharmaceuticals, I corrected gently, allowing myself a small, internal sigh. I oversee a department of 47 researchers. We're currently in phase 3 trials for a drug that could revolutionize pancreatic cancer treatment. James pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. Actually, Sophia's work was featured in Nature Medicine last month. The article called her research groundbreaking and potentially Nobel-worthy. Nobel Prize, my father said hoarsely. It's early to talk about that, I said, a little uncomfortable with the sudden spotlight. But the research is promising. If the phase 3 trials succeed, we could save thousands of lives annually. Brooke found her voice again, sharp and defensive. Why didn't you tell us about any of this? I did tell you, I replied, my voice quiet but firm. Multiple times. You just never listened. That's not true, my father protested immediately. But James, bless his heart, held up his phone. Actually, Dad, it is true. I have the emails. Sophia told me she'd told Mom and Dad about the house in November 2016. Dad said she was being financially irresponsible. Mom asked if she was sure she could handle the maintenance. He scrolled further. April 2018. She mentioned paying off the mortgage at Easter dinner. You asked if that meant she was unemployed. We didn't say that, my mother said weakly, tears welling in her eyes. You did, I confirmed, my voice unwavering. You assumed that paying off a mortgage meant I'd lost my job, not that I'd been financially successful enough to eliminate the debt. That distinction seemed to wound my mother deeply. Her eyes brimmed over. My father's jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jumping. Uncle James continued as if nothing had happened, almost deliberately pouring gasoline on the fire. Sophia, have you made a decision about the lake house investment? That property was stunning. What lake house? My father demanded. There's a luxury property available on Lake Serenity, James explained, completely unfazed. 6 bedrooms, private dock, 3 acres. Sophia's considering purchasing it as a vacation rental property. Why would Sophia buy a vacation rental? Brooke asked, her voice thin and reedy. For income diversification, James answered. She already owns 4 rental properties, in addition to her primary residence. This would be her 6th property overall. The revelation hit like a literal shockwave. My mother actually swayed on her feet. My father grabbed her elbow to steady her. Brooke looked like someone had just slapped her across the face. 4 rental properties, my mother whispered. Small, single-family homes in emerging neighborhoods, I elaborated. I buy them below market, update them, and rent them to young professionals. Average cash flow of about $1,800 per unit after all expenses. That's $7,200 a month. $7,200 a month. My father calculated automatically, his mind still working despite the chaos. That's over $86,000 a year in rental income. Plus appreciation, James added smoothly. Those properties have increased in value by an average of 42% since Sophia purchased them. Her total real estate equity across all properties is approximately $2.1 million. The numbers just kept landing like artillery shells. Brooke's engagement ring hand dropped to her side, forgotten. My parents stood frozen, trying to process a version of their daughter that simply did not match the one in their heads. $2 million in real estate, my father said slowly, still struggling to comprehend. That's just the real estate, James corrected. Sophia's total net worth is closer to $3.2 million when you include her retirement accounts, investment portfolio, stock options, and liquid assets. $3 million, Brooke whispered, a strangled sound. $3.2 million. I corrected, my voice quiet but firm. Though those are estimates, of course. Market fluctuations, you know. My mother's champagne flute finally slipped from her fingers, joining the earlier casualty on the floor. This time, she didn't even notice. You're a multimillionaire. On paper, yes, I clarified. Most of it's invested or in real estate equity. Just then, James's colleague, Dr. Elizabeth Park, approached our group with a warm smile. Sophia, I didn't know you'd be here. Congratulations on the FDA breakthrough designation. That's incredible news. Thank you, Elizabeth, I said, genuinely pleased to see her. We're very excited about the potential. FDA breakthrough? My father said faintly. The FDA granted our pancreatic cancer drug breakthrough therapy designation 3 weeks ago, I explained. It fast-tracks the approval process. If everything goes well, we could have approval within 18 months instead of the usual 4 years. Elizabeth beamed. Sophia's work is going to save countless lives. She's brilliant. Are you coming to the conference in Geneva next month? I'll be presenting our Phase 3 preliminary data, I confirmed. Presenting at a conference in Geneva? My mother said, utterly bewildered. The International Oncology Research Symposium, I said. I'm giving the keynote address on novel drug delivery mechanisms. It's a fairly significant honor in the field. Fairly significant. Uncle James actually scoffed. Sophia, you're the youngest keynote speaker in the symposium's 40-year history. It's a massive deal. Brooke's voice, usually so saccharine, turned sharp, venomous. So, you're just famous? Is that what this is? I'm not famous, I said. I'm respected in my field. There's a difference. Your research has been cited over 4,000 times, Elizabeth pointed out. You've published 37 peer-reviewed papers. You've revolutionized oncology drug delivery. That's more than respect. That's recognition of genuine brilliance. The praise felt uncomfortable, but I appreciated Elizabeth's support. My parents looked utterly shell-shocked. Brooke looked like she was going to be physically ill. I need some air, Brooke mumbled, pushing through the crowd towards the balcony. Her fiancé hesitated, looking between Brooke and our imploding family group, then reluctantly followed her. My mother started to go after them, but my father held her back. Let them go, Patricia, he said quietly. We need to talk to Sophia. What's there to talk about? I asked, my voice calm but laced with a weariness I hadn't realized I felt. Uncle James mentioned my house. You didn't know I had one. Now you do. End of conversation, really. It's not, my mother said, tears finally streaming down her face. How can you have achieved all of this and we didn't know? Because you never asked. I shot back, the dam finally breaking. Because every single conversation about my life was immediately rerouted to Brooke. Because you assumed that since I wasn't screaming my achievements from the rooftops or posting them online, I must not have anything worth sharing. James nodded, a grin set to his jaw. I've seen it for years. Every call, every family dinner. It's the Brooke show. Brooke's job, Brooke's boyfriend, Brooke's engagement. Sophia could cure cancer, and you'd ask if Brooke wanted dessert. That's not fair, my father said, his voice weak. Isn't it? James challenged, his eyes boring into my dad. When was the last time you asked Sophia about her research? Her home? Her life? When was the last time you treated her like she might have something worth celebrating? The silence was damning. My father looked away. My mother sobbed openly. I can tell you exactly when, I said quietly, the memory crystal clear. You asked about my research 6 years ago at Thanksgiving. I started explaining my work on nanoparticle drug delivery, and you interrupted after 2 minutes to ask Brooke about her new apartment. You haven't asked since. The specificity of the memory seemed to break something in my mother. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice choked with tears. I'm so sorry. For what? I asked, looking her dead in the eye. For not listening. For not caring. For spending 8 years treating me like I was less important than Brooke. We love you both equally, my father insisted. Do you? I challenged, my voice cutting through his protest. Can you tell me what company I work for, what my job title is, what disease I research, where I live, anything about my actual life? The silence stretched, agonizing and empty. My father's jaw worked. My mother's tears fell unchecked onto her dress. Helix Pharmaceuticals, James supplied softly. Director of Oncology Research. Pancreatic cancer. 2847, Sterling Heights Drive. Sophia oversees breakthrough drug development that could save thousands of lives annually. We should have known all that, my mother said, her voice filled with regret. Yes, I agreed, my tone flat. You should have. My father's voice came out rough, laced with desperation. What do you want from us, Sophia? Nothing, I said, and as the word left my lips, I realized with startling clarity that it was true. I had wanted you to be proud. I had wanted you to be interested. I had wanted you to see me. But I stopped wanting that about 4 years ago, when I finally accepted it was never going to happen. It can happen now, my mother pleaded, reaching a trembling hand towards me. Can it? I asked, stepping back, out of her reach. Or do you just want access to your millionaire daughter? Do you want to know me? Or do you want to brag about me now that you can't pretend I'm the disappointing child? The accusation landed hard. My mother flinched, as if struck. My father looked utterly stricken. We never thought you were disappointing, my father insisted, though his voice was barely a whisper. You just thought I was less impressive than Brooke, I corrected. Less successful, less worthy of your time and attention. You were wrong. You were catastrophically wrong. But you didn't know because you never bothered to look. James placed a hand on my shoulder. Sophia, maybe we should. I'm leaving, I said, cutting him off gently. This is Brooke's night. I shouldn't have come. Sophia, please, my mother cried, making another weak attempt to reach for me. I stepped back again, shaking my head. Enjoy the party. Celebrate Brooke's engagement. It's what you're good at. I turned and walked toward the exit, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Behind me, I heard my mother call my name, a desperate, broken sound. But I didn't turn around. Uncle James caught up with me in the lobby. You okay? I think so, I said, a little breathlessly. That was harder than I expected. You are perfect, he said, giving my shoulder a reassuring squeeze. Calm, dignified, truthful. Everything they needed to hear. They're going to call, I said, the words heavy. Tonight, tomorrow. They'll want to fix this. Maybe, he agreed. But you don't owe them an easy reconciliation. You spent 8 years trying to be seen. If they want a relationship now, they're going to have to earn it. What if they can't? I asked, a flicker of old sadness. Then you'll be fine, he said firmly. You have an incredible career, financial security, meaningful work that saves lives, and people who actually appreciate you. You don't need parents who only valued you when they learned your net worth. He was right. I knew he was right, but it still ached. Thank you, I said, pulling him into a tight hug. For seeing me. Always, he said, hugging me back just as tightly. You're the most accomplished person in this family, Sophia. Don't let their blindness make you doubt that. I drove home to Sterling Heights, to my five-bedroom Craftsman, with its mountain views and custom finishes, to the life I'd meticulously built, piece by piece, with my own brilliance, my own dedication, my own relentless, quiet work. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it, perfectly reflecting the peace I'd found outside of their gaze. The home office where I reviewed research data and wrote papers that advanced medical science. The library filled with medical journals and oncology textbooks. The guest suite where Uncle James stayed during his visits. The master suite with its spa bathroom and walk-in closet. Every room represented a choice I'd made, a goal I'd achieved, a dream I'd realized. Not for my parents' approval. Not for recognition. Just because this was the life I wanted. My phone started ringing. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Then my father called. Voicemail again. A text from Brooke popped up. You couldn't let me have one night? I set the phone down and walked through my house, room by room. The kitchen where I'd hosted dinner parties my parents had never attended. The backyard with its garden where I grew vegetables for the local food bank. The basement I'd converted into a home gym and meditation space. The anger I'd expected didn't come. Instead, there was just clarity. Clean, cold, liberating clarity. I'd built something extraordinary. I'd achieved financial independence, professional recognition, and a meaningful impact that was literally saving lives. I was revolutionizing cancer treatment. I was on track for achievements my parents couldn't even comprehend. And I'd done it all without their knowledge, without their support, without their approval. Which meant I never needed those things to succeed. I never had. Tomorrow, there would be more calls, more attempts at reconciliation, more demands that I make them feel better about their failures. But tonight, I stood in my $1.5 million house, surrounded by 8 years of quiet achievement, and let myself feel the full weight of what I'd accomplished. Without them. Despite them. In spite of them. Call to action. Now, I want to ask you, if you were in my shoes after years of being overlooked, would you have done things differently? Or have you ever had a moment where your family finally saw the real you? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your stories.